Yechezk'el, Ezekiel, chapter 41. He brought me to the sanctuary and measured at 10.5 feet the thickness of the walls on either side of its entrance, which was also the thickness of the walls surrounding the tent, that is, the sanctuary together with the especially holy place. The width of the entrance was 17.5 feet. The sides of the entrance were 8.75 feet, and on the one side and the same on the other. He measured its length at 70 feet and its width at 35 feet. Next he went farther into the entranceway leading to the especially holy place, and measured at 3.5 feet the thickness of each entrance support. He measured at 10.5 feet the total thickness of the walls on either side of the entrance, and he measured at 12.25 feet the width of the entrance. Continuing into the inner room, he said to me, "This is the especially holy place." He measured its length at 35 feet and its width at 35 feet along the wall nearest the sanctuary. On his way out, he measured the thickness of the wall of the house at 10.5 feet at ground level, and the width of all the side rooms surrounding the house 7 feet at ground level. There were 3 floors of side rooms, 30 on each floor, and the wall around the house was terraced, so that the side rooms rested on the terraces and were not supported on the vertical parts of the wall. The higher side rooms surrounding the house were wider than the lower ones, as were the passageways next to the side rooms on each floor. Thus the width of the side rooms, plus that of the passageways, increased as one went up from floor to floor. This ascent from the lowest floor to the highest was by a ramp through the middle floor. I saw that the house had a raised pavement all around it, which extended outward a full rod of 10.5 feet from where the foundations of the side rooms joined it. The outer wall of the side rooms was 8.75 feet thick at ground level. Likewise, the empty space left between the structure containing the side rooms and the house itself also measured 8.75 feet wide. On all sides around the house itself was a space 35 feet wide between it and the block of rooms for the Kohanim. The doors of the side rooms opened toward an empty space, one door facing north and the other facing south. The empty space was 8.75 feet wide all around. The building on the west, facing the separated yard, had an interior width of 122.5 feet, an interior length of 157.5 feet, and exterior walls 8.75 feet thick all the way around. He measured the length of the house at 175 feet, then a distance that included the width of the separated yard, the interior width of the building, and the thickness of its front and back exterior walls at 175 feet. The distance along the facade of the house on the east side through the separated yards to the north and south was 175 feet. He measured the length of the building facing the separated yard behind the house, together with its galleries on both sides at 175 feet. The sanctuary, the inner place, and the vestibules leading from the house to the courtyard, as well as the thresholds, near windows, and galleries all around these 3 had wood paneling around them, as far as the thresholds and from the ground up to the windows, and the windows were covered. From the area above the entrance to the interior of the house, as well as outside, and on the interior wall all the way around, both inside and outside, was a pattern consisting of cherubim and palm trees, with a palm tree between each 2 cherubim. Every cherub had 2 faces, so that there was the face of a man toward the palm tree on its one side, and the face of a young lion toward the palm tree on its other side. This was the pattern all the way around the house. The cherubim and palm trees ran from the ground to above the door, and likewise on the wall of the sanctuary. As for the sanctuary, the door frames were squared, and the appearance of the especially holy place was like the appearance I saw at the Kavara River. The altar was of wood, 5.25 feet high, and 3.5 feet long. Its length and walls were also of wood. He said to me, "This is the table which is in the presence of Adonai." The sanctuary had 2 doors, and the especially holy place had 2 doors. The doors had 2 swinging leaves each, 2 leaves for the one door and 2 for the other. On them, that is, on the doors of the sanctuary, were carved cherubim and palm trees like those on the walls, and on the exterior facade of the outside entrance were thick beams of wood. There were narrow windows flanked by palm trees, and on both sides of the entrance, the side rooms of the house and the thick beams also had palm trees.